Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Mafex Harley Quinn from Batman Hush. It's the Batman Hush version. I was going to read it, and then I messed up what I was saying. Anyway, people have been telling me this is the best Harley Quinn ever, you should get it. Here it is. It very well might be. Now, a lot of people like to use that it's the best ever. Okay, that's good, but does that mean it doesn't need a review? No, because the best thing ever could still have problems, and so we're going to talk about everything on the figure. If it's good, if it's bad, we'll talk about everything, and you can decide for yourself at the end if you think it is the best whatever. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Alrighty, before we get into the figure, let's take a quick look at my package. I do like the way they're doing this. The Batman Hush ones are pretty clean looking, not bad at all. You see a little bit of Harley down there. Full figure and accessories right here. The window's even bigger than it needs to be. I'll take that. I like a nice big window. Another pose down there. That's nice. Another pose at the top. Basic stance on the side. And then on the back, you get some options that show the accessories. I think that is a perfectly good package. A little bit of light in from the top for those of you keeping the figure in the box. All right. And I'm going to keep saying my package because people keep complaining about it. The silliest things people get mad about on the internet. It's amazing to me. Anywho, this figure, by the way, is in stock at Big Bad Toy Store. Shout out to them. Link in the description below if you want to get it. That is a good option. Let's do a height measurement here. This figure stands about 6 1/4 inches. A little bit shy of that. Going to be about 15.75 centimeters. I don't have my Hush Batman handy, but I have this Batman, which I like more than the Hush Batman, I think. So there you go, height comparison wise, he is definitely taller and bigger. Enough, I don't know, she's probably a little bit tall, or he's a little bit short. But once you pose him, I think you could fudge it pretty well, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Here she is up against Darwin. There we go. Yeah, she might be a little bit tall for Harley, but I think it'll be fine. And then here she is up against a McFarlane Batman, one of the smaller ones. That scaling looks better to me for Harley. Well, I mean, she's small. She has a small head, that's what's throwing it off, but she's actually kind of tall, so it's a weird one. We'll get into that. And here she is, Marvel Select. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic on this figure. I love two things about this. The first thing is that the head is done really, really well. It is very clean, and I think it looks great. The eyes, the lips, the paint for the domino type mask, and just everything else on there. It's a great sculpt, great paint. She's got a few heads, so that's nice. So that's one thing I really, really like about this figure. The other thing I like is that the paint job is pretty clean. It's not perfect, but it's pretty clean. So that's good. It's hard to get blacks and whites and reds done properly because white and red both suck to paint. The only real noticeable issue I have is right here. There's a little bit of a black bleed, but everything else, it's pretty darn good. I like that the black is a shinier finish than the red. That gives it some cool appeal, and that the white is a matte finish. It's very nice looking. It is basic though. As usual, Mafex, this one doesn't have any shading on it as far as I can tell. They skimp on the paint for sure. I think they would look a little bit better with more paint, but they tend to have softer sculpts too, so they're going for some kind of style, and I can't really fault them for it, but it does seem a little basic. But what's there is done well, and I really like that the black has a different finish than the red. I think that looks awesome. Love it. Proportioning-wise, it's not bad. It's one of the better ones they've done, other than her head is just a little bit small. I think it would look better to be a little bit bigger, given the size of her body. If you were only looking at this part, it's still a little small, but pretty good, but she has kind of long legs. And so if you want her to fit in, I think the head just needs a touch more size, but it's not super noticeable, and I think you'll be fine once you start posing the figure. So yeah, aesthetically, this thing's great. For Mafex, it's a cleaner paint job, and overall it's a really clean paint job, so I'm gonna go 8.5. I'll go 8.5. I think it could stand to have a bigger head and maybe a little bit of shading or whatever, but it's still pretty darn good looking. Now, as far as accessories go, we do get the 3 heads. We get the smiling head that comes on her in the package, the open mouth smiling head, which looks great, and then the open mouth angry head, which looks even better. I love these head sculpts and paint jobs. They are very, very nicely done. For hands, you get the 2 relaxed hands that come on her in the package, and then a variety of other hands. She doesn't have any trigger finger hands, and she also doesn't come with any guns, so that kind of blows. But you do get her mallet, which is pretty nicely done. I'll take it. It's not super heavy, so should be okay. I'll put a note in there if it ends up being too heavy. And then you get some, I guess these are spring shoes. I don't know. I don't think I've ever... Yeah, I've never seen her in these. I have not read Hush or looked into it at all. So I guess they're spring shoes. So yeah, that's a pretty good spread of accessories. You get the display stand as usual with a Mafex figure. That's good, other than not having any sort of gun at all, which I'm sure is a DC stupid thing. That's pretty good. So I'll go 9 out of 10 for accessories. Pretty darn solid. Now, let's talk about the articulation. The head and neck are on ball pegs, and so you can just do basically whatever you want, whenever you want, and you won't have any trouble. Should be fine. Alright, now for the shoulders, hers aren't as good as you might have expected. It's a ball hinge inside there with a cap on it, which is not generally known for being the best at range, and it's not. You can't raise her arms properly, even with that cap. It's not a great design. It's fairly limited. It looks okay, but you're not going to get any extra dynamic poses like from Nightwing, or who did we look at recently? Magneto. She doesn't have that extra range. It's basically, it feels like a ball peg with just a floating cap in there, with this cap over the ball hinge, so very limited, relatively speaking. Bicep swivel is fine, double jointed elbows, no problem. Relatively limited, like it's not bad at all, that's fine, but it's not extra. She's not going to be a very dynamic poser. She'll be a decent one. Now for the torso, they did put the cut just under the boobages, which it's good for hiding the joint, but it's better to bring the cut down to the ribcage for actual functionality. So we'll see. I'm guessing this is going to be a little bit weird. She leans forward just a little bit, not a ton. And then leaning back, she gets a lot. It gets gappy and it's kind of flat across here. So it's a little bit strange, but I think it's good range, but you want to probably not have that gap, so you only get to go there. It's a little bit weird. Side to side is okay. You're going to get your rotation, but not a ton out of it. I think they would have been a lot better off putting that cut at closer to the bottom of the rib cage, kind of like where that glint is. I think that would have been better. Down here, it does lean back nicely at the bottom. And it leans forward actually really well too, so that's good. You should be able to get enough posing done. Side to side, that's pretty solid. And then a little bit more rotation. The rotation's fairly limited across both joints, so that might be kind of a problem. But I think overall you'll be able to lean her back pretty far, lean her forward pretty far, and you should be able to get everything in between. So that'll do. It's not the best ever, but it's definitely good enough. Now, you guys know how I feel about drop-down hips, and they used them again on this figure. However, they did a pretty good job. It's nice looking when they're not drop down, and they go out to the side almost all the way, so that's pretty good. Now, the drop down doesn't do anything for that. It's only for this right here, and it does allow her to kick pretty much straight forward and pretty high up. So it works well enough, and they're not super stiff, so they're not really annoying, and they're not super loose, so they're not really annoying. It's okay. If you're going to use that joint, this is a decent way to do it. It's not my favorite, but it works well enough here, so that's fine. Thigh swivel is very limited, and it only really goes in, doesn't go out too much, so that's going to hurt posing, I think. Double jointed knee is solid, probably too long at the lower leg as usual for Mafex, but it's not too bad. And for the ankle, this part doesn't move. You just get the ankle down here, which is on a ball hinge, so it goes pretty far back. Oops, not that far forward. Apparently the foot comes off pretty easily. Yeah, not that far forward. But you do get a toe hinge, which is not good at all. What the heck? Who the flippin' heck designed that? What are you doing? Oops, there we go. That's not good. That's not how you do that. That never has been and never will be how you do that. That is 100% wrong. That is ridiculous. Alright, so the toe hinge sucks, but we should have a decent, at least, yeah, you can get a nice ankle rocker out of that. So that's good. Okay, so her articulation, not the strong suit. It's not bad, but it's definitely not the best. Especially for Mafex. It's kind of just average for Mafex, I would say. Average, low average, probably. But you should be able to hit some pretty decent poses. It's just not as good as it could be, especially at the higher price point. So I'm only going to give her articulation I'll give it an 8. It's still pretty good in a lot of places, but things like that toe hinge and the thigh swivel not working and certain other issues aren't perfect, but it's solid. It's definitely solid, and I think you'll be okay with it. Okay, so now it's time for the final verdict. Best Harley Quinn ever? Maybe. It's not like there's been a ton of figures for her, so I'd say the next closest thing for like a standard Harley Quinn would be the DC UC one, which was a solid figure. It's very dated now, but I would say, yeah, this is probably the best one. It's an expensive one, comes with good accessories, really nice paint job for the heads. I'll say 8. It's a solid release. I like the accessories. I'm being won over by the head sculpt and paint. It's nice. It's very, very nice. So yeah, I think you guys will like it. If you're looking for a good Harley Quinn figure, this is one you might want to check out. Again, I'll have a link in the description below if you do want to get it. If not, then hey, there'll be another one at some point, somewhere. I don't think the character's going anywhere anytime soon. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos just about every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.